Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we're dimming the lights and diving into the shadows of real life. Forget fiction. Sometimes the truth is far more unsettling. These are the kinds of stories that cling to you. The ones that make you check the locks twice or glance over your shoulder on a quiet street. I've found 3 true accounts that are genuinely chilling. Stories that blur the line between the ordinary and the unnerving. So, get comfortable, but not too comfortable. These are 3 creepy true stories you won't forget. Our first story takes us to the vast, quiet farmlands of rural Australia in the 1970s. Imagine a young family, the Millers, who just bought their dream property. A sprawling farmhouse with acres of open land, perfect for their 2 young children to grow up on. The house was old, but it had character. The first few weeks were idyllic. The kids would play outside until dusk, their laughter echoing across the fields. But then, the nights started to change. It began subtly. The father, John, would be woken by the faint sound of a music box, a tinny, haunting melody that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. His wife, Sarah, heard it too, but they dismissed it as the wind playing tricks on the old house. Soon, other things started happening. Tools would go missing from the shed only to reappear in the middle of the living room floor, arranged in strange, deliberate patterns. The children began talking about a new friend they called the Shadow Man. They said he was tall and wore a hat, and he would watch them play from the edge of the woods. John and Sarah were unnerved, but they tried to rationalize it as an overactive childhood imagination. That was until Sarah saw him herself. One afternoon, while washing dishes, she glanced out the window and saw a tall, dark figure standing motionless by the old oak tree, just as the kids had described. It was there for a second, a solid silhouette against the bright afternoon sun, and then it was gone. The feeling in the house grew heavier, more oppressive. The music box became a nightly occurrence, its tune now sounding more like a warning. The final straw came one evening when the family was eating dinner. Suddenly, every cupboard and drawer in the kitchen flew open with a deafening bang. Plates and glasses fell and shattered on the floor. In the terrifying silence that followed, they heard a deep, guttural whisper from the hallway that sounded like it was saying, "Get out." They didn't need to be told twice. The Millers packed a few bags, bundled their terrified children into the car, and drove away, never to return. They left almost everything behind. Years later, John learned from a town historian that the previous owner, a reclusive old man, had disappeared from the property decades earlier. His prized possession was said to be a music box he always kept with him. The house remains abandoned to this day, a silent monument to the family it drove away. For our second story, we're heading to the bustling, anonymous world of a modern city. This one comes from a college student named Chloe, who was living in a small, ground-floor apartment. Like many students, she was on a tight budget, and this place was all she could afford. It was in a slightly rough part of town, but the building had a security door, which gave her a sense of safety. One night, while studying late, she heard a soft, rhythmic tapping on her window. Tap, tap, tap. She froze. Her window faced a narrow, gated alleyway between her building and the next. No one should have been there. Peeking through the blinds, she saw nothing but shadows. She told herself it was a tree branch, even though there were no trees in the alley. The tapping became a semi-regular event, always late at night, always just 3 soft taps. It was creepy, but she learned to ignore it. Then came the phone calls. She started getting calls from a blocked number. When she answered, there was only silence on the other end. No breathing, no static, just dead air. This happened for a week straight, always around 2 a.m. One night, fed up and frightened, she yelled into the phone, "Who is this? Stop calling me!" The silence on the other end was broken by a single soft sound, the exact same tapping she'd been hearing on her window. Tap, tap, tap. Her blood ran cold. The sound wasn't coming from the phone's speaker. It was coming from right outside her window at the exact same moment. She dropped the phone and scrambled away from the window, her heart hammering against her ribs. Whoever was calling her was standing right there, just feet away, shrouded in darkness. She immediately called the police. They arrived quickly and searched the alleyway, but found no one. There were no signs of forced entry, no footprints, nothing. The officer suggested it was a prank, but Chloe knew it wasn't. The calls and the tapping stopped after that night, but the feeling of being watched never left her. She broke her lease and moved out a month later. She never found out who was harassing her or what they wanted. The thought that someone had been so close, watching her, knowing her routine, and toying with her from just outside her window is a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we can't see. Our final story is perhaps the most unsettling of all because it happened in a place where we expect to be completely safe, our own car, on a well-traveled highway. This happened to a long-haul truck driver named Frank in the late 1990s. Frank was a seasoned driver, used to the loneliness of the road and the strange sights one sees crisscrossing the country at all hours. One night, he was driving through the desolate plains of Nevada on I-80, a stretch of road known for being long, straight, and empty. It was around 3 a.m., and he hadn't seen another car for nearly an hour. As he crested a small hill, his headlights caught something in the road ahead. It was a woman standing in the middle of his lane, her back to him. She was wearing a simple, old-fashioned white dress. Frank slammed on his brakes, the truck's air horn blasting as he swerved to avoid her. He managed to bring the massive rig to a screeching halt just past where she had been standing. His heart was pounding. He was sure he had hit her. He threw the truck in park, grabbed his flashlight, and jumped out, expecting the worst. But there was nothing. No woman, no body, no sign of anyone at all. The road was empty in both directions, lit only by the moon and his headlights. Shaken, Frank got back in his truck, trying to make sense of what he'd just seen. He figured his mind was playing tricks on him after too many hours on the road. He started driving again, much slower this time, his eyes scanning the darkness. About 20 minutes later, he saw her again. This time, she was on the shoulder of the road, standing perfectly still, facing away from him. That same white dress. As he passed her, he slowed down, craning his neck to get a look at her face, but it was obscured by shadows. His fear turned to ice. This was no tired illusion. He floored it, wanting to put as much distance between himself and that strange figure as possible. But it wasn't over. As he looked in his passenger side mirror, he saw her, not on the road behind him, but in his passenger seat. Her reflection was sitting there, staring straight ahead, her face pale and her eyes dark and empty. Frank yelled and swerved, looking at the actual seat beside him, which was, of course, empty. When he looked back at the mirror, her reflection was gone. He didn't stop driving until he reached the lights of the next town, where he pulled into a truck stop, his hands shaking too much to hold his coffee. He told his story to a few other drivers, and one old-timer nodded grimly, saying he'd heard tales of the Lady of I-80 for years, a ghost who appears to lonely drivers in the dead of night. Frank took a different route after that, no matter the extra miles. Some things just aren't worth the risk, and that's all the time we have for tonight. 3 stories, born from real experiences that remind us the world can be a strange and frightening place. Which one got under your skin the most? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you for spending this time with me in the dark. If you enjoyed these stories and want to hear more, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. Stay safe out there, and until next time, sleep well, if you can.